Now what? And we'll give people 2 minutes to start joining us. A little bit late, so we probably wandered into the territory of people signing out and signing back in. Oh, here they come. Diane, hello, Croeso, welcome to this event. This event is part of the Wales Tech Week. It's the first ever Wales Tech Week, and we are doing a whole day of events today and a digital day. So if you're, I know some people have signed up for all of them, so this is our third event. Thanks for sticking with us. We've got 2 fantastic speakers and then a lot of chance for questions and interaction with this one. Mi fydd y digwyddiad yma yn Saesneg, ond mae Pederi a Catherine a fi yn siarad Cymraeg, so os ydych chi eisiau gofyn unrhyw gwestiwn yn y Gymraeg, mae groeso i chi wneud hynny. So this event will be in English, but if you're speaking Welsh, you can ask us questions in Welsh. This event is in partnership with M-SParc and the Enterprise Hub at M-SParc as well, which Pederi will tell you a little bit more about at the end. So we're going to have 15 minutes from Pederi at M-SParc, giving us a potted history about his experience in business. And then we're going to go over to Gaz, who's going to tell us about his business. And then we will have some question times, so you can type your questions and we'll get some feedback on that. So pay attention and interact, and if there's anything you want to ask us, feel free to do so. So I will take you over to our first speaker, who is Pederi from M-SParc. Diolch, Pederi.
Excellent, and thanks for the introduction, Emily. I'm going to share my screen. Hopefully.
That was the quickest screen share we've had today. Well done.
Thank you. I've passed the test. So thanks for having us, and thanks for kind of entertaining me this afternoon and sharing a bit about my story with the digital business. Hopefully you'll find bits of this interesting as we go along. So I'm Pederi a Pritchard, quite easily to search for me on the internet because there's not a lot of Prederis around. So if you want to hook up with me on LinkedIn, I would love to know more about your businesses and whoever's watching. And I believe in building networks, and that's how we're strongest, is we can work together. So do connect with me. There's the URL there. But I'm the managing director at M-SParc, and I've been working for the company now for best part of coming up to 6 years, I believe. Initially as the project manager overseeing the development, and now as the managing director taking the business forward. And I'm blessed really to be working with a fantastic team here driving some great digital projects and digital businesses forward. But I'm also lucky to be working alongside and with digital businesses every day who are employing and creating some fantastic careers and job opportunities for people in the sector. So that's me, and please do connect with me. And just for this afternoon, what I'd like to share is a bit of my kind of story in terms of digital businesses, a trip down memory lane, and indulge me a bit in kind of looking at some stuff that you'll probably find it maybe a bit boring and kind of prehistoric and in the digital age. But we'll take a look at some of the digital businesses I've been involved in over the years, and maybe I can share a few lessons learned towards the end of the presentation as well. So I thought I'd start off with a photo of myself as one of the kids in school who was always interested in developing business, and I studied gychwyn business in school, and that was the best class ever. I really enjoyed business, and that's how I've been throughout really. And I went on to Coleg Mwyron Dwyfor, studied business there, and studied ICT and economics in Aberystwyth University, and went on then to work for Welsh Government, a programme called Opportunity Wales, assisting businesses to get online and to work more effectively online. But I've also been interested in economic development throughout my career, and now working in M-SParc, I get to be involved in digital and economic development and business every day, which is great for me. And these are some of the community that we get to work with here, companies large and small, from student startups, maybe identified over at the university and supported then by Be Enterprising to come over to the Science Park, right through to people from that initial seed of an idea to people then who are employing, 50 or more on the M-SParc in the digital sector and creating good livelihoods for themselves by doing so. So it's a real mix that we have at M-SParc. But back to myself with business, as I mentioned, I've always been interested in business, and I started developing websites when I was 15 years old in '97. I've also been driving wedding cars. You can see me there as a chauffeur. I've also been the chairman of a community pub. We've got a glamping business, which is also a digital business, by the way. A lot of people may think of it as a holidaying, but I believe that lives on the internet now, and that's how we generate all our businesses digitally. And who knows, it's maybe even a snail farm in the future. That's the dream. But going back to '97 and establishing my first company called Tudalen Newydd, a new page, I was really lucky to have an opportunity, this is 2001 now, by the likes of Gwas Carreg Gwalch, who took a chance on someone who's quite young and gave them an opportunity to try something out. And I feel now that I'm in a role here at the M-SParc where I'm able to do that to so many other young people. Like I was given an opportunity by Myrddin Ap Dafydd at Gwas Carreg Gwalch to develop an online e-commerce site for them. And not only was I given the opportunity, but he also afforded me with a lot of mentorship during that period as well. And the same for some other clients that I'll mention furthermore in the presentation. But interestingly here, it's an online e-commerce site back in 2001. And I believe it's one of the first ever Welsh language e-commerce sites where you could actually order and pay online. We take these things for granted now, all in the palm of our hands. But back in the day, that was a revolutionary. The same for Sign, music recording studio Sign. I was tasked with getting them their complete catalogue online onto an e-commerce site back in 2002, and working with a Russian partner, a guy called Viktor Maxim from Russia. We developed a bilingual shopping cart system that lived on the website in 2002, and I still claim to be the first ever bilingual e-commerce shopping cart system in the world. Well, Welsh and English maybe, but still, I'm claiming innovation there and a digital business. And again, with Sign, you have people there like David Iwan and O.P. Hughes, people who set their online business in the hands of an 18, 20-year-old, someone who didn't quite know what they were doing, but who was willing to work damn hard to find out a way of getting these things done. So when we come to looking back at the lessons, I think finding a mentor would be one of the lessons learned from myself. And then I took both catalogues, the catalogue or the database for the books in Carreg Gwalch and the database for the DVDs and the music from Sign, and I put them all together in a website called flam.com. And that was back in 2002. And this was like an Amazon then, because you had DVDs, CDs, books, and T-shirts being sold then. And Amazon wasn't really a thing in 2002. But you could also, interestingly, listen to some of the music on there. Again, things that we take for granted now, Apple Music, and you just play it. But we're going back nearly 20 years here. So this was a business that I owned and I operated whilst at college in Aberystwyth, and helped fund some of my education, no doubt. I guess one of the most entertaining ones I've been involved in is development of Pishin.com, which was the first ever Welsh language dating agency. I believe maybe it still is. I don't know if there's been another one. But this is back in 2003. and getting an opportunity to work on, I was the developer for the platform with hundreds of people using it. People got married on the back of this, believe it or not. So you could search for, I'm a man interested in a woman, click the search button and you'd get a list, and then you could pick and choose who you were interested in on interests and so forth. So y cwmni caru cyntaf o Gymru, ag I was looking at the website in research to this presentation this afternoon, and you can even send an e-kiss on it. And yeah, I'm not sure how many e-kisses were sent, but that would have been a thing back then. I'll pay £10 a month if I can send you an e-kiss. So yeah, interesting opportunities I got myself into back there. And I also launched, and this was a complete flop really, to be honest with you, but I launched a multimedia CD-ROM for children. I commissioned new graphics and everything. I got to research everything about space, and developed a multimedia CD-ROM that would tell you all about everything to do with the space. With space, you can click on various parts of the sun and it would tell you about it. But I just couldn't get this to market. It just sat on my PC and I didn't really know of how can I commercialize this. And looking back now, if only there was somewhere I could have taken this and had some advice from people who've done this sort of thing in the past, and some space to develop it, and some contacts for people who can write content much better than I could have, and could have developed graphics. And I guess that's where the M-SParc comes in, isn't it? It's opportunities for people like myself back then is what I hope that the M-SParc can provide in the future, so that these sort of opportunities don't sit on one's hard disks for 20 years until there's a presentation about it, so that we can commercialize it and make a bit of money on the back of it and create wealth and jobs for the region. Nevertheless, there was a CD-ROM, there was multimedia, there was video and music and sound and everything, and games on it as well, but it didn't get anywhere, which I think is a shame. Another lesson for me is to take your chances. I was afforded an internship in '99 in Dean Street in informatics there, with someone called Gychwyn Jones, who was really, again, a fantastic mentor, encouraged me to develop my skills. And yeah, these opportunities come along. I was actually given these opportunities by the woman who was teaching me how to drive. So I must have been about 17 or something. And she was studying at the university. She saw this internship, and fair play, she printed the thing out for me and brought it to the next lesson. And then I applied and I got that opportunity, which gave me all sorts of contacts and opportunities going forward. So do take your chances, whatever form they come, and create your own as well. And this was another flop, but it just goes to show you've just got to drive through with every opportunity that comes along. I was really eager to develop a website for the creamery because they're a large employer just down the road from where I live. And I remember as a 16, 17-year-old kid going there for a meeting to show them what a website was and to tell them why they needed one. And probably they, fair play, they gave me some, half an hour, and they kind of politely told me to kind of go away. But you've got to work on creating your own opportunities. This is not going to happen for any new digital business out of nowhere. And there will be no's and there will be low points along the way. And there will be people who tell you, yeah, go on, go that way. But don't get too disheartened about it. You're bound to stumble onto the next thing as you go along. Another lesson for me is getting the timing right. So back in 2001, we had the foot and mouth disease. Now, for people on the call who weren't even born then, this was when the whole country was probably locked down last before COVID-19. and we had travel restrictions, and the livestock markets were closed for a number of months. And hence the idea of having an online cattle market, which was great for me from a farming family, people who had digital cameras and so forth. But for 99% of the other farmers who would have been on this sort of platform, they just didn't have the tech. So getting the timing for your idea right is quite important. Fast forward, I kid you not, to now, this is like this month, with COVID-19, on Farmers Mart website, there's talk of a new online livestock auction being launched under the new lockdown regulations. And I was like, so are you telling me I was probably like 19 years ahead of my time with that platform where farmers could take photos and videos of their cattle and sell them online? Probably not, maybe a bit more like 10, but I guess the story is to get the timing right. That's quite a key thing. And as I've mentioned throughout the presentation, hopefully and throughout the talk, make sure that you've got good mentors around you, family and friends. My father was absolutely supportive in whatever wacky ideas I happened to pitch to him. And he would always encourage us to think outside the box and to think about business and think about technology. So make sure you surround yourself with good, positive people who want you to succeed. I was really lucky in having that sort of mentorship from the likes of Sain and Carreg Gwalch and Bangor University. So you can't underestimate the power of mentorship. And for people who are watching, maybe who are at the university, who are thinking of starting a business, then you're welcome to contact people like Big Ideas Wales or the Enterprise Hub at M-SParc. Contact the Science Park, contact Laurie at Be Enterprising. There is a cracking support network for new ideas and new startups out there. Make use of it. It didn't really exist back in the day 20 years ago, and it's a massive step forward that we have this support available now, and please do make use of those networks and go for it. Enjoy being involved in whatever business, digital or not. Enjoy it. It is a highly enjoyable sector to be involved in. There's a great ecosystem, a number of people working in it, and highly enjoyable. Take your chances. Don't be afraid to fail. There's nothing wrong with failing, because you can learn from that and take it to new ventures going forward. Get the timing right would be the other lesson from myself. And always seek support. It is available to you, as I mentioned, through Be Enterprising, through the Enterprise Hubs. Get in touch with us and make use of forums like this. And I'd like to finish off probably by offering, if anyone is interested, I feel like I want to give something back. So if anyone is watching and they have an idea, please get in touch with me personally. You have my contact details on the first slide there. I'd be more than happy to spend a couple of hours with you discussing your ideas and trying to see how I can help with my network to take your ideas forward. I'm very happy to do that. So that's me, Emily, back to you.
Brilliant. Diolch yn fawr iawn, Pryderi. The Cupid of Wales talked to us about his businesses. To be fair, considering they were like 2001 websites, they were quite high tech. I was quite impressed. So that was good. And interestingly, so I was on the call, so Pryderi is my boss. So it's quite interesting for me to see your journey and things that we didn't know that you got up to. So that was quite interesting. Thank you very much for that. A few of you's homework is to go and Google what a CD-ROM is. But it was quite ahead of its time on what you had developed on that, to be fair. Diolch yn fawr iawn, Pryderi. If you've got any questions, you can ask them now. We'll come to them at the end and go through all of those. Just before we go to Gaz, and a slight change of running order, Catherine, could we come to you to have the context of Big Ideas Wales? Because I know that Gaz is an ambassador, so I think that would probably be a better order so that we know where we're running from. Oh, you're on mute.
That would be more helpful, wouldn't it? So my name is Catherine Lewis. I'm a business advisor for Big Ideas Wales, Syniadau Mawr Cymru, and we do have a range of people who are role models, and we also have people who have also started businesses of their own whilst they've come through our program, and we have those as young ambassadors. So we've got a lot of support there. My background myself, I've got a fintech business and a travel. I've invested in a travel business as well. So I certainly know of the process of going through raising funds and doing the paperwork. Because I haven't got a slide that I can show you, I will leave my contact details in the chat box for everybody. So if you've got any help that you need, any contacts that you need, you know, we're here to help you. And of course, we've got people, fantastic people like Gaz that we can, I mean, Gaz has just done amazing things with his business that we can like help other people to do exactly the same with theirs as well.
Lovely. Diolch yn fawr iawn, Catherine.
Diolch.
That's given us some context before we go to Gaz then. So I was quite fortunate, I think was it in February, to speak alongside Gaz at an event for graduates of Bangor University. And your story is a really interesting one. So I'm glad that we're getting the chance to hear that again and to share that with more people. So over to you, Gaz.
Hello, can everyone hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to try and share my screen too, if I can remember how.
There we go, perfect.
Yep, that's working okay. I'm going to make this small too so I can... Okay, hi everybody, my name is Gaz Thomas. I'm a Big Ideas Wales role model, so I work with CAF sometimes on that kind of thing. I'm going to talk today about my digital entrepreneur journey. It's called Bedroom to a Billion, not £1 billion unfortunately, but you'll find out a billion what later on. And the subtitle is 6 Ideas that helped turn my hobby into a successful digital business. So let's get started. Okay, so my journey starts back in 2005, and I was a university student, funny enough, in exactly the same building that Pryderi showed earlier. And I read an article about internet entrepreneurs. In this article, there was this lady who was out walking her dog, and she noticed her dog was squinting in the bright sunshine. So she decided to try and make some dog sunglasses. She made some in a home workshop and then made a little website to start selling them because she thought they were cool, doggles.com. And then because it was cute and you know, newspapers were interested in what was happening in the digital sphere at that time, a load of newspapers around the world did little articles about it, and soon orders flooded in from all over the world, and that person became a millionaire. So after reading that article, I was inspired. I decided I had a new life goal. I was going to try and become an internet millionaire. My business plan was really simple. I was going to make a fun or useful website, monetize it by putting adverts on the site, get loads of visitors, and just make heaps of cash. But there were a few hurdles that I needed to overcome. Number one, I didn't know how to make websites. I didn't know how to monetize them, didn't know how to get visitors, and I didn't have any money to invest in this. I think my initial investment was £40, and I never spent any more money after that point that I didn't make from the business. So it was a very low budget start. So how did it go? Okay, so my first idea was, instead of jumping into this with both feet and risking it failing and giving up entirely, is I decided to make it my hobby. So if it has success, great, it's a business. And then if it doesn't, oh, it was my hobby anyway, I was having fun. So that was my whole idea of make it a hobby. So there was a lot less pressure to succeed, but also I could dedicate a lot of time to it. So to start with, I started to learn how to make websites, and I simply Googled it, how do you make a website, and started following tutorials. There's no end of tutorials online about how to do it. And my first website was called ratemybiob.com. So Biob is a kind of round fish tank. I just bought one and I didn't know how to decorate it. So I made a website where you could submit your Biob pictures and then people would rate them. Then you could browse the top rated to get ideas. It tanked, that was a pun. There was only two fish tank pictures ever submitted, and one of them was mine, so that didn't work out. That same year, I made about a dozen more websites, just trying different ideas, and most of them were just bonkers ideas. I was just trying every single thing I could think of. I had loads of fun doing it. Then I got burned out because I was being way too obsessive about this, and I wasn't becoming a millionaire yet at all, and I took a bit of a break. So the next idea I'm going to talk about here is, like I just said, I made like 12 websites in the first year, is I never practiced. So don't practice sounds like terrible advice, but what I mean is basically I just started doing it for real. Like every single thing I made, I put it online to give it a go. So obviously don't practice isn't good advice for all businesses. You know, if you want to be a surgeon or something, you definitely should practice that before you do it. But in my case, just going for it. And I had a friend who got interested in websites at the same time. And in the space of 2 years, he'd gone through a whole textbook and made like 3 practice websites and no real websites. And like, what's the point? Just get doing it with this kind of thing. Okay, so one of the websites I've made was called thegamehomepage.com. And I'd collected, can you guys see my mouse? Nod if you can see my mouse pointer, because I don't know if that shows up. Yeah, you can, okay, cool. Yeah, so these are all games I'd collected from around the internet, and you could play them all on this website. So the website was all right, it had adverts on it, but nobody was visiting. So I needed to get visitors, but again, I didn't have any money to advertise it. So I thought, okay, what else can I do? I learned how to make web games. Again, I just Googled it, how do you make a web game? You need to use Flash. I did some tutorials, and I made my first web game called Tangerine Panic. So I'll see if I can get it up here. You can still play that online, just Google Tangerine Panic. Oh, those present buttons hidden behind everyone's faces. So I released that on the internet, and here's some reviews it got on the website Newgrounds. Fluffy Bombs thought it was quite possibly the single greatest game ever created. Thanks, Fluffy Bombs. OMG Tangerines gave it 10 out of 10. And he actually made a username after a caption in the game, so he really liked it. Poor Rod, he couldn't find the mute button, 0 out of 5. But overall, it got about 100,000 plays, and that just blew my mind. So after that, I was like, wow, I can make a game that popular on my first try. So I went full time, and I made loads more games for about 2 years. And none of them were anywhere near as popular as Tangerine Panic. And I kept thinking, okay, so I need to make better games, so I'd invest more time into each game, and I put more pressure on myself for it to be good. And then one game I spent like 6 months on, and it just totally flopped. So I decided I needed a change to my approach. And the next idea that I started to use was to validate my ideas with minimum viable products. So instead of spending 6 months on a game, I would take an idea and just make the simplest game I possibly could from that idea. And you know, I might spend 2 weeks on it, and it'd be thrown together, the graphics would be bad, but then I could churn lots of them out and see what idea people liked the best. And one of those ideas was called Super Stacker. So I made a really quick version of it with only 12 levels, and the goal is you'd stack these shapes on the screen without them falling off. And people loved it. So then I focused my next, I think there's another 6 weeks of just full focus making a much better version, Super Stacker 2. So this version had 40 levels, speedrun challenges, rewards, a bonus mode, and level editor and sharing. So I'll show you that game quickly. Start right click to find a mute button. So that's Super Stacker. So there's been lots of games like that these days, but that was the first game using an idea. And it was insanely popular. So here's day one, it got like 30,000 plays, which was my best day ever in a game. But that was blown out of the water by day 4 when it was getting over 500,000 plays a day. And this went on for years. So by March 2014, which is when my tracker stopped working, I'd tracked over 245 million plays on that game. And it's literally something I'd made on my laptop in my bedroom in North Wales. I published it myself. I didn't have anyone behind me, and it reached that many plays, like just unbelievable to me. So after the success of Super Stacker, it actually got purchased by a big company in California who wanted to make apps and stuff out of it. they bought it and they made really bad iPhone app and then didn't do anything else with it. And then I didn't have the rights to it anymore, so I couldn't make any more Super Stacker games myself, so I was a bit gutted. So I tried to make a new game which had as much of the winning formula as possible, but didn't overstep what the Super Stacker rights I'd sold to them. So instead of a game about stacking shapes, I made a game which was the opposite, removing shapes from the screen. And that's when I made Red Remover. So red shapes are miserable. We've got to remove them all from the screen.
Yeah!
Dark red shapes are too strong. You can't click them, so you've got to make them fall.
Yeah!
But green shapes are lovely. We want to keep them on the screen. I'd realized at this point the best time to get people to do things is when they fail a level. So I've got a video walkthrough up here. If they click that, they'll go to my YouTube video showing all the answers. And I'm a YouTube partner, so I get money every time that video is viewed. So that's a bit of extra income. And also I've got a more games button because they might want to come to my website to play some games. And I'd get this game featured on as many different websites around the internet as I could. In addition, I also earn money from an advert when the game is loading. So no matter what website the game is played on, I get some money from it.
Yeah!
So, and then another interesting thing I added, hang on, let's try this level. So I've got to keep the green shape and get rid of all of these guys.
Yeah!
Then another cool idea I came up with is that gravity can act in different directions. So if you look at the shape's faces, you can see which way they'll fall. So these guys are upside down, that means they're going to fall up, and these ones are going to fall sideways.
Yeah!
So using these rules, I can make all sorts of interesting puzzles then.
Yeah!
That game, again, was super popular. It got, by March 2014, again, when my trackers stopped working, it had over 130 million plays, which is about half as much as Super Stacker 2, but interestingly, the same amount in English-speaking countries. Super Stacker 2 was just super popular in China for some reason and had over 100 million plays there. Also, the walkthrough video, which I linked to in the game, got over 17 million views and actually got me the Guinness World Record for the most viewed game walkthrough video ever at that point. It's since been knocked off by a new Super Mario Brothers walkthrough, but I held that for a little while. I didn't find out until about 3 years later when someone left a comment on the YouTube video saying, "Congrats on the world record, Gaz." And I was just typing back, "I don't have a world record." Then I thought, hang on, I'll Google it. And I Googled it and it was in the book and everything. And no one ever told me until that person. There was also over 1.2 million user created levels. So I only made 45 levels, but that extended the gameplay a lot. And there was over 14,000 websites hosting the game. I can show you actually that I made it as easy as possible. So anybody who wants to add it to their website, they can see a little add to your site button here, and that will give as a little bit of text, giving them full permission to use the game and all the files that they'll need. Because previously I had people emailing me asking, "Can I feature your game?" I didn't want them to do that. I just wanted them to grab it. I don't want 14,000 websites emailing me. Okay, so at this point, things were going really well. Super Stacker and Red Remover have been super popular. I was making some other games, not quite as popular, but still doing good. And I've noticed something, that the gamehomepage.com was just effortlessly at the top of every search engine for the search, the game homepage. And I thought, well, nobody searches that until they've already heard of my website. So what if I made a new website named after a search which is just really popular already? And then I could get to the top of that search, and then I'd add loads of extra visitors to who I get because I'd get all the search engine traffic too. So idea 4 was get good at search engine optimization. And what I decided to do was compile a list of the most popular game-related search terms. So my list was about 400 terms long. So it was everything I could think of: puzzle games, car games, fun games, funny games, free games, online games, web games, everything I could think of. And then I used a Google tool to put them in order of how many searches each one got. And then I started at the top and just went through each one, trying to see if I could get a domain name using that name. And I bought quite a few domain names at that point. And then I set up little mini websites on them and tried to get them to rank well in search engines. But there was one search term right at the top of the list I wanted more than any other, which was free games. So I approached freegames.net. He wanted $500,000, which was too much for me. Freegames.com wanted $1.6 million. They sold it for that to another buyer afterwards. So that was a big investment for them. But freegames.org, he said he didn't want to sell it, but then I found some old forum threads from a few years back and found he'd bought it for $20,000 like 3 years earlier. So I thought, oh, I'll just offer him double. So I offered him $50,000 and he said, oh, okay, I actually would sell it for that much. And like, he'd got no idea what these guys were asking. So that was all right. And I went to the bank and told them about my plan and they gave me the $50,000. And then I went back and said, oh, I'm really sorry, I only raised $45,000. Is that okay? And I was like, yeah, fine. I'm totally cool with that. And then I used $5,000 to go to Disney World, which was a bit cheeky. But yeah. Okay, so things were going pretty good for a few years after that. I had some moderate success getting freegames.org to rank well in Google. It was in the top 10 for a little while, and it paid off the $45,000. But then things really started going downhill. Web games started going out of style, or the app stores just had like really started kicking off, and everyone started playing games on their phones instead. They were playing apps. And Flash announced it was going to be discontinued. And my website at the moment, the game homepage, had like 12,000 Flash games on it. The whole thing was just Flash games. So that was really bad. And freegames.org got blacklisted in Google. So at the time when I bought it, you needed to get as many links pointing into your website as possible to do well. And then all of a good sudden, Google flipped it on its head and said that any links we think are spammy, you'll be penalized for. So you've gone from trying to get as many links as possible to only wanting good links. So I'd got blacklisted. I had over 100,000 links pointing to it, and Google wouldn't tell me which ones they didn't like. So things are looking really bad at that point. And I noticed most of my competitors, there was like probably 1,500 popular Flash game sites. They all just start closing down and being abandoned. Like, you know, there's probably less than 100 now, which are doing okay, if that. So everyone else was giving up. All the signs pointed to I should give up as well. By 2016, I think I was making about £900 a month from it, and it was going down. So there was like, this isn't going to be sustainable. So things looked pretty bad, and I really should have given up at that point. But one day, I was feeling a bit low about it, and I'd got another job in the meantime. But then one day, I just thought to myself that this is a big lot of change going on. All of it seems negative change for my business, but actually, you can look change another way as an opportunity. And like in today's climate, that's something other businesses can think too. It's like, you know, things are changing, but there's also opportunity. And I thought, I'm going to become the best web place you can possibly play web games on any device that'll work on anything. And yeah, and make it the best suited to be what Google likes to see at the top of Google as well. So I decided to instead of giving up, invest loads of time. I spent almost a year just getting not blacklisted in Google anymore. That was the right pain, but I managed it. And then I completely rebuilt freegames.org. I used HTML5 games. I made it fully responsive, so it works at any size device screen. I made it super fast because Google really likes fast websites. I did much better SEO. I did a 6-month search engine optimization course online with a University of California, which is supposed to be the best place in the world for it. So I got really good at that. And I started doing market research. And this is my next idea, is do proper market research. So at this point, I've been doing this for over a decade, and I finally decided to research who is visiting freegames.org. And I'd always assumed it was like young teenage boys. I'd filled the website with games about blowing things up, battling things, crashing a car, all this stuff. But then I actually did market research to see who was visiting, and it turns out it was 60% female. So that was a surprise. And then it also turned out that almost 60% were over the age of 65. And these two combined, over 80% of my visitors were over the age of 55. And that was just, what? I couldn't believe it. So they don't want to play those kind of games. So I updated the website. I started doing lots of surveys, asking what kind of games they liked. And it turns out they like things like Mahjong, card games, you know, board games, that kind of thing. So I changed the website to have those kind of things. And the average time people spent on the site doubled, which is another thing that Google loves. So that was a result. Oh, here's what it looks like now. Yes, you can see I've got all like, you know, solitaire games, that kind of thing. And then 1 year later, almost exactly after I made all these changes and I improved the website so people spent more time on it, here we am. So this is the search free games in America. this is an advert, and here I am, number one organic result. So in the space of that year, I went from blacklisted to position 85 in 1 year. And then in the next year, I went from position 85 to position number 1. And I'm not number 1 every day, but most days right now, I'm number 1, which is bringing in a heck of a lot of new visitors, like 200,000 a month. And so, yeah, that's where I'm up to these days. Here's some achievements I've unlocked over my time. And just remember, I've had no training doing this stuff whatsoever. I've learned everything just by Googling it and following a tutorial. And I've just set up in North Wales. I'm not affiliated, or I've got no investment. I've got no publishers. I just do it all myself. So I've developed over 100 games. They've had over 1 billion gameplays. That's where the billion came from. So by a gameplay, that's like a session when somebody loads the game, spends half an hour playing it. I consider that a gameplay. So there's been over 1 billion of those. And £0 marketing budget. Well, 350 million views on my websites, page views. I got a Guinness World Record. I've had 2 BAFTA Wales nominations and about 20 other awards. And thanks for listening. That's my end of my presentation.
Brilliant. Thank you, Gaz. Well, that's the second time I've seen that, and I'm still as impressed. But I think you've blown Frederi's mind. Yeah, that was excellent. Great story. Thank you. Before we get to the questions, I'm going to do a tenuous link. So if everyone looks in the chat, we have an event at 4 o'clock today on how to make your own programmed video games. If you've been inspired by Gaz and you want to start having a go, please come and join us at 4 today to have a look at that. So now it's over to you as an audience. Please let us know if you have any questions. There's 2 ways you can do that. You can click on the chat and type it into the sidebar, but please be aware everyone will know who's asking what. So if you want to ask something anonymously, you can click on Q&A and that'll come directly to me. So anything you want to ask these guys and pick their brains, go for it. It does take a while to type, so I was thinking no one's going to ask anything. Do you guys have any questions you want to ask each other as well?
How big a step was it to buy that domain name, Gaz? Like 50k is a lot of money, irrespective of like the other one was like 1 million, but you obviously believed in what you were doing, or you understood the business at that point in time.
I'd become completely obsessed with owning a domain name with that name. And yeah, I got a good income coming in. That's why the bank agreed to give it to me, because they could see all the red remover and super stacker money coming in. But that stuff was kind of temporary because that has a big peak and then it slowly trails off. But yeah, it was a really big step, but I was absolutely convinced 100% it was going to make lots of extra money. So I went for it.
Good.
So that self-belief is actually quite important, I think. But also you obviously knew you wanted something good. You weren't blindly following one goal. You had kind of stepped achievements along the way.
Yeah. Yeah, that's it. So the idea was kind of proven I could make good money from making these games. And yeah, and I'd also bought some other websites with different names. So like I bought one called towerdefensegames.com, and I managed to get that near the top. And then that was making a good return on investment. And I could see how much more traffic freegames.org, the search free games gets instead of Tower Defense Games. And if I scaled it up similarly, I could see I could get a really good return on investment.
Brilliant. We don't have any questions yet. Frederi, do you want to briefly mention the Enterprise Hub whilst they come in?
Yeah, like I mentioned, there was one more question though. Is that Tangerine game still online?
Yes, I get your link right now.
Oh yeah, thanks for that.
I used to actually go to that website that you showed, Gaz, with all the games on. That's where we used to go to play games when I was a teenager. So I played your Stacker game and stuff, and it was like meeting an icon, and you're like, I invented this game. I was like, oh my gosh, I used to play that game, and now here's the guy who made it. So it's a small world.
Amazing. So the Enterprise Hub at M-SParc, it's all about creating that community of support. So you can come through the door. There's people here to help you through talking about your business plans. There's courses, there's events, there's space here for you as well. And just to be part of a community that's supportive and to get support to develop your business. That's the Enterprise Hub in a nutshell. So it's based in M-SParc, but there's spokes as well in Gwynedd, Anglesey, Conwy and Denbighshire as well. But no, all the details for the Enterprise Hub, just to check the website, which is hubmenter.cymru. Am I right, Emily?
Chat.
There you go.
We've got some questions coming in. So Gaz, when did you realise that over-engineering was not the way to go, i.e. the MVP route?
after I'd made about 15 games that were over-engineered, and then it's just like, this just isn't working, and the business was at a make or break time. We were going to have a baby, and my dog had got cancer in the same week, and so baby's expensive, and also the vet's like, to treat the dog, you need a couple of £1,000, otherwise we could give him steroids and put him down in a couple of weeks. So I was like, oh man, I've got to make more money. So then I just thought, I've got to just really take a completely new approach. And the whole phrase and concept, minimum viable product, I only learned about that recently, but basically that's what I was doing. I was making the bare minimum, just tested different ideas. And that completely transformed, that changed it from a failing business to a successful one.
Is that the switch between being a business and being a hobby though? Because presumably before then you were so proud of what you were doing. You were like, you had the graphics had to be bang on and the movement of the thing had to be perfect. But then you realized, hang on, I'm wasting a bit of time. But is that like a switch between, I don't know, doing something that you're super proud of, but it takes donkey's years, and getting something out there to see if it works or not and testing the market?
With anything whatsoever artistic, I feel a bit silly calling this artistic, but it is, you know, expressing yourself creatively. You've always, if you're going to do it as a business, there's going to come a point where you've got to let go of trying to do things the way you want and look at what's going to work as a business. And that's really, really important to do. And like I say, I think that's a big step, is to, instead of, you know, trying to do your vision, look at what the market wants and what you can do, and then express yourself creatively, which fits in with that. So the beauty of things like Super Stacker is everyone can play it. So before that, I was making some games, which are something I really love, but, you know, my mum won't play it, a 4-year-old kid won't play it, just people like me will play it. So I switched to making games that everyone can play. And to be honest, I found them the most fun games to make in the end.
And did the family believe in what you were doing, Gaz?
They're pretty supportive, whatever, but some people would say things like, oh, so your wife's a breadwinner, is she? And like, oh, you're going to get a real job soon, stuff like that. There was a few comments like that, but it's, I believed in it.
Yeah, I was just wondering, from the mentor, who was the like a biggest influence, or did you just drive this yourself because of your interest and passion in it?
I had a bit of a problem, is that I didn't really know anybody else who did anything like what I was doing. So I was in a bit of a bubble. There was lots of other people online. So I made online friends with other people that made games around the world. And there's some people I chat to. There's one of my best mentors is just a retired teacher that I know. And for some reason, he just always has the best advice, even though you'd think like, you know, he's way, way older than me and all this stuff. And he's not done any kind of business like this. But he's just got a really good logical way of picking things apart. So I found mentorship just from people I know, just a little bit for people that don't mind listening to me talk about it. But I've never had mentorship from somebody who does anything like what I do. So
Awesome.
I'd like to.
There's the 2 key messages that are coming across, which is Gaz starting a business is the kind of drive and the self-belief that you had to have to make that work. That's very important to everyone starting a business. But then, as Paderi said as well, if you need a bit of help, it is really important to have someone who believes in what you're doing as well. And having that mentor, be it your dad or be it someone like Big Ideas Wales or the Enterprise Hub, it's okay to ask for someone else to check your idea and see if it's something worth moving forward as well.
The timing thing came through for you there as well, didn't it, Gaz, with Google changing their algorithms and Flash being disabled, and you can't use Flash on iPhones and stuff like that. So yeah, timing is critical with these things, isn't it? And being able to react.
Yeah.
And you can't always get that timing right, because you don't know sometimes what's going to happen. Like Gaz, you had no idea Google was going to change the algorithm. You just got to roll with the punches when stuff like that happens. And
exactly.
Sounds like you did it very well, because now you're #1 on Google. So I think that's one of the best examples you can get.
The 84 websites that were ahead of me didn't do it as well.
Yeah.
That's what put me from there to there.
Exactly. It's just the perseverance, isn't it? And making sure you get it right for your business. Good stuff. I don't think we have any more questions. You guys are getting off lightly. So I'm going to give people 2 more minutes to ask if they have anything. But in the meantime, thank you very much for attending both. This has been really informative and a fun talk to have as well, because I think you can fall into the trap of thinking business has to be something boring and something that just makes you money. But I think you've shown that it can also be something fun and something that you're passionate about as well. So I think that's a good message for people as well. We've put, if you haven't checked out the chat yet, we have put some resources in if any of you are starting a business to get in touch with us. Oh, and Kevin's asking, what is your next target for you guys? 2, 3 or 4 billion? And more importantly, what's your next venture?
I've just actually, since lockdown, I've started a brand new venture, which has been, I've made a fully managed game portal system so I can manage games for other people's websites. So the kind of websites I'm targeting specifically are big news outlets. So previously they'd have crosswords in the newspaper, but now what they can have instead is puzzles on their website, because everyone uses websites these days. But they might not necessarily want to generate puzzle games and do all that kind of stuff. So I'm making a system where I can fully manage a game section on somebody else's website, and then we share the revenue between us. So I've been busy. I've got it working. It's on one website so far. So that's my next target, is to get that on some big websites, which is a whole new marketing thing for me, because previously I've just tried to attract visitors to play. Now I'm having to approach big businesses, which I'm trying to wrap my head around how to do that. So that's my next thing I'm trying to get to work.
That's an excellent example of seeing a gap in the market and just kind of adapting it to what you can do. That's brilliant.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Guys, do you ever do talks on SEO and the way that you did that, the specific techniques? Is that something that we could maybe have a chat with you about, having like a follow-on event?
Yeah, I'd love to do that. I've done a little one before, but I wouldn't mind expanding on it, just to give me a good excuse to do that.
Perfect.
Watch this space, everyone.
Excellent. We'll leave it there for today then. Gaz and Fideri, I've sent you in the chat a link so we can have a little follow-up talk to this. If you'll copy and paste that into your browser, please, so we can catch up. Everyone else, we've got 2 more events coming up today. So at 4 o'clock, we've got the game one, which I've sent you. And if you check out North Wales Tech, they've got what they're calling a fringe event. It's part of the Wales Tech Week, but they got in too late to get it on the website. So it's the speakeasy of the events, which you have to go through a different channel to get to. But we've got 3 fantastic talks through that as well. One of them is how to set yourself up for Zoom or for online talks or lectures and webinars, which is really good. Someone's going to talk us through that, which I think I could do a bit of because the background and the lighting today isn't great. So there's something for everyone. So keep an eye out on what we've got. But thank you so much for joining us. And thank you to all our speakers. That's been really informative and a really good talk. Diolch yn fawr iawn.